What's up, YouTube? For the first time ever, we're actually going to be taking a look at the Ultra League, at least the top teams for the Ultra League. We're not looking at the Ultra League for the first time on this channel, but we are looking at some top teams. I've got, I think, 11 top teams for you. And we're also going to take a quick look at the top 20 rankings for the Open Ultra League as it stands right now. And at the number 1 spot, we have XL Grumpig, followed by XL Corviknight. That we then see Lapras, Shadow Dusknoir, Feraligatr, which is a classic. We've got Giratina altered form. We've got Tinkaton, the newly introduced Pokemon. Jellicent, Zygarde complete form. Primeape, Gastrodon, Galarian Weezing, and both the Shadow and non-Shadow right next to each other. Clefable down at 17, Runerigus, XL Runerigus at 18, and then Registeel at 20. Now, a lot of these Pokemon you should be familiar with because the majority of these all have play in the Great League, and they have equally as much play in the Ultra League, except everything is just bulkier and requires a heavier investment. So that's pretty much all the Ultra League is nowadays. But there is a lot more safe Pokemon and neutral, and the meta isn't as condensed. But let's take a look at 10 top teams, or 11 top teams. So the first team is Pangoro, Grumpig, Talonflame. Now you might recognize this because it's a team I basically ran to Legend with. I guess surprise, by the way. But we've got Pangoro on the lead, which is weak to Fighting and Fairy, both of which Talon resists. And then you've got Grumpig as your safe swap, which is getting into the fighters as well. Grumpig also will lure out any potential Dark or Ghost type Pokemon, which can hit both for super effective damage, so it can grab a shield in that matchup. And then if you lose that matchup, you can still come clean up with Pangoro because Pangoro beats both of those. So this team is obviously super strong. It's a format that I used to run to Legend recently. The next team that we're going to look at is Zygarde, Golisopod, and Corviknight. I am running a very similar team right now just for fun, but I do not have a Zygarde complete form, so I'm actually running Shadow Flygon in its place. But basically the idea is you've got 2 Pokemon in the back that are weak to Electric. Golisopod, if they have one, is going to lure it out. And I believe it or not, I think the most common Electric right now that I can think of is Stunfisk, which is an XL Pokemon. But either way, you lure it out. If they have one, you beat it with Zygarde. Corviknight roams free, so very similar play style or play pattern there. And then just neutrally, Zygarde, Golisopod, Corviknight, they're all super strong. And Corviknight does cover the majority of Zygarde's weaknesses. You're weak to Fairy, you're weak to Ice, which we have super effective damage in Iron Head for both. So yeah, overall a very strong team. The second team is similar to one that we actually see in the Great League, and the Great League version of this is Annihilape, Dugong, Bastiodon. It was a team that was run either 1 or 2 seasons ago pretty frequently. It's fallen off a little bit now, but the same kind of format works in the Ultra League. You've got Annihilape on the league, you've got Lapras as your safe swap, which actually functions even better than Dugong in my opinion, because if you bait out a fighter, you have super effective Psywave to make that matchup pretty close. And if you lose that matchup, so be it. You come back with Annihilape, you punish it there, and then Steelix roams free in the back. Steelix as a steal has very few answers in this meta, and Annihilape and Lapras can deal with the majority of those. You also have you also have 2 bulky Pokemon in the back with flying coverage for Annihilape because it is weak to those flyers. The next team is Talonflame, Cobalion, and Guzzlord. So you've got Guzzlord in the back, which is weak to Fighting, it is weak to Fairy, it is weak to Bug, it is weak to Ice, and it is weak to Dragon. So it does have a lot of weaknesses, but Talon actually covers all of those except for Dragon, but that's a neutral matchup for Guzzlord either way. And then Cobalion, similarly, it's weak to fighting, it's weak to fire, it's weak to ground, it's not good against fairies, and guess what? Talon is good into all of those as well. So it doesn't really matter who you use as a safe swap on this team. Both are okay, but not great. But either way, Talon is going to punish that weakness, and then hopefully the other Pokemon in the back can roam free. So very similar play pattern to this team as well. The next team is Moltres Double Fairy. Now, Moltres, as a Dark Sucker Punch user, is obviously bad into fairies, but it's also not great into other darks. So what we have in the back is we have two answers for both darks and fairies, because they're fairy types themselves, which are good against the darks, but they're also poison and steel, which are good against other fairies. So if you see something like a Clefable on the lead, you've got two good answers in the back. If you see a dark type that beats Moltres, like I'm trying to think what is just a good dark type, like Drapion. Obviously it's got neutral Poison Stings and Aqua Tails. So then you can switch into either Weezing or Tinkaton, and have a more neutral matchup there. If you did want to run that, like that specific scenario, maybe you want to run Play Rough instead of Brutal Swing on the Weezing, especially if you're not running the Shadow, potentially. The next team that we're going to take a look at is Forretress, Feraligatr, and Credilli. Now, Forretress has one weakness, and that weakness is a double weakness to fire, because of that bug and steel typing. However, it's also really bad into grounds because it's a Volt Switch user. It's also cheapest move is a Rock Tomb. So you do want to cover its ground weaknesses as well. So what we have is two Pokemon in the back that are good into both of those. We've got Feraligatr, which water is super effective into ground, and it's super effective into fire. It also has Ice Beam coverage. So if like it's a Zygarde, for example, Feraligatr can come in there. Credilli, as a grass, is good into your grounds, but as a rock is good into your fires. So if you see like a Talonflame on the lead, you can come in Credilli and actually outpace to the Rock Tomb. And if it's like a Steelix on the lead, you can come in Credilli and resist the Thunder Fangs, and you've got neutral grass knot coverage there. So this team obviously has a lot of bulk. It's also got really hard hitting charge move pressure, so this team is super strong. The next team we're going to look at is Alolan, Sandslash, Shadow Dusk Noir, and Jellicent, or Sandslash Double Ghost basically. Sandslash, weak to fighting, weak to fire, weak to ground, all of which Jellicent is good into. So it's a great core there. And then Shadow Dusk Noir as your safe swap, baiting out anything that Jellicent doesn't want to see, but also has that super effective dynamic punch coverage for its weaknesses there. The next team is Virizion, Shadow Drapion, Tentacruel. This is kind of an older line, but Virizion as your grass and fighter, and then you've got a Pokemon in the back, Drapion, which only has one weakness in ground, which of course Virizion resists. It's also good into steels, which Drapion doesn't want to see. They usually just make a pretty good core, and then Tentacruel in the back as your closer. The next team is got quite an expensive team. You've got two legendaries and an XL Pokemon with a community day move. So Registeel, similar to Sandslash, you've got weaknesses to fighting, fire, and ground. Giratina covers fire and fighting, whereas Blastoise covers fire and ground. Both can function as safe swaps on this team, but overall you've got a very bulky team that can spam relatively quickly. So it's a very strong team in general. Second to last team that we're going to look at is Lapras, Malamar, Runerigus. Now, Lapras is weak to Fighting and Electric, so it actually makes a good core with Runerigus. Of course, grass types could be a little bit difficult, but the most common grass type is like Venusaur or Virizion, both of which are weak to Psywave. So you can actually stay in that matchup, play it out, and you've got super effective Ice Beam for both. You also have Malamar as your safe swap, which is good against the fighters, and then Runerigus Lapras core is just pretty strong. The final team that we're going to look at is Florges, Skeleturge, Gastrodon. Florges is weak to Steel, it's weak to Poison, and it's weak to Fire. So Skeleturge as a fire ghost actually resists all three, and it can make a pretty solid safe swap. Gastrodon can hit all three for super effective damage with both Mud Slap and Earth Power as well. So very strong core there. And if you win the lead and they safe swap into one of those things, then you would come in with Gastrodon as your response, and then you would let Skeleturge sweep. But yeah, that is 11 top teams for the Ultra League. Let me know if you guys want to see some Ultra League battles this week. I do have one video planned already, which is basically just me showing off that I've hit Legend. And yeah, other than that, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.